p.m. Melissa, will you please take roll call?
Yes. Melissa Denton. Here. Carl Hubner.
Here.
Andy Cabarrus.
Here.
Richard Poor.
Here.
And calling by remote connection, Denise Meyer.
Here.
And Ms. Meyer, would you please state the reason for your remote participation and also include in your statement whether anyone else is present in the room or location from which you are calling?
Yes, I am joining remotely this evening due to an out-of-area family obligation, and I am alone in the room.
Thank you. And finishing with roll call, Pinkerton Student School Board Member Eliana Henry.
Here.
Thank you. And also seated at the board table is Superintendent of Schools Bob Thompson and CFO Jeff Dowd.
All right, please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Board members, in your packets you have two sets of meeting minutes, one from our August 26th regular meeting and one from the non-public meeting on August 26th. So go ahead and look those over.
I'll make a motion to accept both the regular and non-public minutes for August 26th.
Board members, any questions or discussion? All approved?
And just a reminder, we have to do roll call
yeah,
vote
thank
for
you.
that. Thank you.
Because yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I do that now?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Denton? Yes. Dr. Hubner? Yes. Mr. Cabarrus?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Dr. Poor?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to school highlights, starting with Assistant Principal Peter Schmidt with Hempstead Central School.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Cabarrus. A couple highlights from the opening of our 2025-2026 school year at Hampstead Central School. An enrollment update for you. In preschool, we currently have 37 students. That is up from last year. Kindergarten, we have 70. First grade, 90. Second grade, 78. Third grade, 99. And fourth grade, 96. For a grand total of 470 students. Our class sizes are averaging between 17 and 21 for grades K through 4. Staff opening. Very excited to meet our new staff in staff orientation on August 20th. We welcomed a whole bunch of new staff to our school. Very excited and ready to go and to join our team. We hired several teachers and paraeducators who will continue to support our mission of educating all students at a high level. A couple days later, we had all our staff come back, and we had the opportunity to get together with them for some professional learning, classroom setup time, team building, and staff meetings. And I will say it is truly awesome to have all our staff back. It really is. It's great to see everybody again. Open house and the student starts of the year equally great. We had our open house on Tuesday, August 26th. And we welcomed back just under 500 families. It was really awesome. It was almost like a homecoming. It was great to see all the staff and parents and families in town come to really kick off the school year in a positive way. On Wednesday, August 27th, the following day, we marked the first day of school for our K through 4 students. Students came out of their cars, out of the buses, very happy, full of energy, and ready to see their friends and get to learning. Our preschool students also had their visitation day on the 27th, followed by their first day of school on the 28th. As it is with our staff, it is truly great to have everybody back, and the students have brought in a tremendous amount of energy and happiness into our school, and we're very, very happy to have a full school of students and lots of learning going on. Transportation, buses have generally been running on time despite a backup with our buses to start the year. Our afternoon dismissals have been successful, and we thank our parents for their patience and staying in their vehicles while loading and unloading students and helping to keep all our students and staff safe. We also thank them for using the walker dismissal option as well. Read with a Hero is coming up actually in 2 days on September 11th. This is an annual event in its 23rd year, which we're super excited about. Read with a Hero welcomes police, fire, EMTs, military, and other heroes from our school community into the school to read with our students. This is such a great way for our students to connect with the heroes that keep us safe every day in our town, in our county, in our state, and in our country. And lastly, we have the Memorial Committee at the Central School, and the committee has been working very, very hard and working with care and dedication to honor Michael Torelli's memory in meaningful ways in our school. One of the most visible projects is a community mural that is now underway. It is truly beautiful and a work of art. It is coming along very, very well. And this is a collaborative project that will serve as a lasting tribute to Mr. T and the symbol of the strength and care of our school community. And we thank Kim Downey from the middle school, Gretchen Shaw from HCS, and Ashley Gerard for their creative leadership and support in leading this great project and dedication to Mr. Torelli. That is it for what I have currently for the HCS. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you, Dr. Hubner. I appreciate it. Anybody else?
I'll just say on behalf of the Hampstead Civic Club, I'm extremely grateful to HCS for allowing us and a number of other community organizations to set up outside during the open house, just to get out in front of people and kind of spread the word of the activities that we were advertising. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, moving on to school highlights with Principal Amy Bernard, Hampstead Middle School.
Good evening, everyone. So I have our enrollment update at HMS. In our 5th grade, we have 87 students. 6th grade is 96. 7th grade is 70, and our 8th grade is at 108. So that brings our grand total to 361, up from 356 last year. So we're super excited to welcome all of our 361 Hawks to school this year. I would first like to start by saying thank you to our year-round staff, including facilities, technology, and our office staff that worked super hard all summer, getting ready to prepare for the start of the year. I'd also like to acknowledge our ESY staff who worked with some of our students over the summer. Personally, for me, this was the first summer I was really here, and it was a joy to see our students enjoying learning over the summer months. So that was really fun and really awesome. I'd also like to share on a club and activity note. We currently have 30% of our student body represented and participating in fall sports. So that's a really awesome way to start the school year. We're really excited to support our Hawks on the fields in the coming months. We are also excited to share that on Friday will be our second annual club fair. So we will be celebrating with our first Spirit Day, Wear Your Interest Day on Friday. And we're really excited to show, especially our new 5th graders, all the offerings that HMS has. And our message to our students is really to get involved. So we're really excited to start the school year off with that. Next, I have to share that we have introduced therapy dogs to HMS. So I don't need to say any more. That's like the mic drop, right? Everybody loves therapy dogs. So we are launching a therapy dog program aimed at supporting the emotional and social well-being of our students and staff at HMS. Mrs. Karpinski and Mr. Mayu have been working for well over a year to bring this program to us, starting with visitations at Pinkerton and Nottingham School District in the spring of 2024. Last year, as part of Wellness Week and Mental Health Awareness Month, students had the opportunity to meet Bailey and Tucker, personal dogs of Mrs. Karpinski and Mr. Mayu. Both dogs are currently in training and working towards certification through the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. They also got their school picture, so they officially have IDs, so nobody has to worry, they are safe to be in school. We are really excited to bring Bailey and Tucker on a more regular basis this coming school year. I can tell you that Tucker was in school today and he got some slobber on my pants, so I did have to change for our meeting tonight. I also am excited to share that we have some updates regarding our behavior management program here at HMS. We have made significant strides in strengthening our behavior management system over the past year, and I'm really proud of that. With the arrival of our new assistant principal, Ms. Amy Maldonado, we are looking to draw upon her experience by targeting our Tier 1 classroom management protocols. So we plan to use our MTSS, which stands for Multi-Tiered System of Supports Committee, to pilot some positive behavior strategies with the intent to do a full school rollout either later this year or next. We hope that these strategies and tools with conjunction of our behavior plugin with PowerSchool will help us analyze these interventions in real time. And I gotta tell you, I'm totally nerding out on the behavior plugin. I'm super excited about the data it's already giving us now that we're integrating it from the start of the school year. It's really gonna be exciting, and I cannot wait to share data with all of you. We are also building upon our Tier 2 academic and behavior support room by hiring a full-time staff member to lead our WIN room. So really we're turning this into a full program of Tier 2 support for academics and behavior. So again, I'm just really excited to share the progress with all of you as we move through the school year. And lastly, I'd like to share that our art teacher, Miss Downey at HMS, had worked with 4 students last year. 2 were 8th graders, 2 7th. So Lindsay G and Abby B were 8th graders last year. 7th graders Kiana G and Aaliyah M. And they worked throughout the school year in the afternoons for many hours painting historic Hampstead buildings. Well, those paintings were delivered to the law office of Germain and Blaska, and that was at the end of the school year. And they are now beautifully hung and framed and waiting for our community to see them. So they would like to invite you to a reception on September 22nd at 5 p.m. Light refreshments will be served, and you can RSVP at Pamela@germainlaw.com. So I'm going to repeat that, Pamela@germainlaw.com, and that is September 22nd at 5 p.m. And those are my updates. Any questions for me? We're super excited too.
I've never wanted to interview a staff member more than the therapy dogs, so I know it's not going to happen, but it would be really cool.
Come on in.
I will at some point. Dr. Poor is giving me a funny look.
It's just my face.
I think maybe we organize a little meet and greet with the school board at some point.
I actually think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We'd love that. They have HMS gear too, everybody, so they are in their blue and yellow. So we will represent for you.
And we know school board members need therapy too.
True.
Therapy dogs, I'm sorry.
Very true.
Yep. Therapy dogs, that's what I meant to
Just
say.
watch out for your pants.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, and last but not least, we have our new student liaison, Eliana Henry. Welcome, Eliana.
This is my Pinkerton High School highlights. School is back in session with different policies being enforced this year. The biggest new rule being the bell-to-bell phone ban, which is from 7:15 a.m. to 1:58 p.m., along with AirPods being banned. The Fall Pep Rally and Homecoming Dance are approaching soon. On September 26th, the football team will face Londonderry for the big MacPlac game at 7 p.m., along with other sports teams like field hockey, soccer, and volleyball. Other clubs and activities besides sports are becoming involved with MacPlac Week, like Chess Club, which is great to include more people. On Friday, September 5th, the club fair was held in the Shepherd Auditorium during Flex and lunches, and it was a very successful event, and many students are looking forward to being more involved. Lastly, on September 10th at 5 p.m., Pinkerton is going to test the emergency alert system, which is going to test how people would receive crisis communications in the event of an emergency. Any questions?
No questions. I'm more curious about you, and was hoping to just like learn a little bit about you.
Okay. I've gone through the Hampstead Middle School and Central School, and I live right on Wash Pond, which is probably 3 minutes away from here. And then I'm the youngest of 4, so I have 3 other siblings, and I'm a junior this year at Pinkerton Academy.
Awesome.
What was your favorite Hampstead school experience? What's something you remember that you liked? Didn't know you were going to get
Putting her on the
interrogated.
spot,
Yeah.
man.
Sorry, it's my fault. I'm that guy.
I think probably just the graduation, like in 8th grade, getting to see everyone. And then one time my brother came to speak here, and I had liked that a lot because I was just really proud of him.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
All right, board members, any other questions for Ellie? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the budget process discussion with Bob Thompson.
All right. Okay, it's the most magical time of the year where we formally begin the budget development process. And I use that word formally because I feel like we are in the budget process all the time. In fact, when we conclude one fiscal year, we begin the planning for that future fiscal year. So that planning's already started. But what we present to the board tonight is essentially what we propose for the budget development process. This is an opportunity for board members to weigh in and provide feedback, and if we want to make some adjustments, we certainly can. You know, we're working backwards from a timeline of the presentation of the budget to at the public hearing. So there's some deadlines that we have to reach here. And just for the purpose of informing the community, so the school administration is tasked with developing a recommended budget. We work in conjunction with the school board to develop that budget. We take feedback, we have work sessions, and then that recommended budget, at some point, the board adopts some version of that, and that becomes the school board budget. And then the school board budget goes to the community, and they get input at the public hearing. And then we move forward with the deliberative session, where the legislative body, the voters in the town, get to weigh in on that budget. And then a second legislative session, which we call voting day, where residents and voters get to decide the fate and future of the school district budget. So again, this process is like formally already underway. Building principals are in the process of working with their staff to develop department budgets and budgets within each of the other departments as well. That typically takes place in the month of September up until September 19th. From the 22nd to the 26th, and again, there's some flexibility within these dates. The principal will review all of the budgets and put together a total budget, and that obviously gets entered into our accounting software. September 29th to October 13th, that's central office review, so each of the directors and principals will meet with Mr. Dowd and I, where we will pick apart line by line, item by item, everything in there. We'll look at needs and wants, and there'll be some refinement that occurs there. Then on October 14th, we'll have a board meeting, and we will discuss, we'll get some additional direction from the board in terms of what they're looking at for a budget. On the 21st, we have scheduled a budget work session. So again, similar to last year, what we're proposing is we invite the public in and we have the opportunity for the board to meet with separate departments and schools to be able to really dig into what is in the budget, what's not in the budget. From there, we would come back on October 28th and we'll do a presentation for the public of those budgets, those department budgets. We look at budget drivers, challenges, goals, enrollment data, any major changes. From there, we take feedback from the board and we go back and we refine. And then what we do is we would come on November 12th with a, what I would say is a very close to final draft of the budget. The board continues to provide feedback, input, we make adjustments. Then we would come back on November 25th with a revised or proposed budget with the goal of a final approval and adoption of the administrative budget on December 9th. So I welcome any feedback the board has. If there's some adjustments that need to be made, this would be a good opportunity to engage in that conversation. And I would just add a piece, we do budgeting differently here than is often done in other school districts, and that is, we operate off of zero-based budget. So other school districts, for simplicity and ease, they will get a number from either the superintendent or the board saying, okay, show us a budget of 3%, 5%, 8%. We don't do that. We build it from the ground up, and it's based on student need. Again, our commitment to doing what is right for students. So the challenge with zero-based budgeting is there's a lot of work. But if you go on and you look at the budget detail that's available online, you'll see we can account for every Band-Aid that is purchased in the nurse's office and every set of colored pencils down to nickels and pennies. It's a very effective way of being transparent. But the flip side is it's a lot of work. And we're proud of the process that we use, and we're open to any feedback or input that the board might have regarding that process.
The only thing, and I don't know if this is the time for this, but I know last year going into voting and the budget, we talked about kind of having information about school funding and how that comes up. And I'm just wondering if before we get to March, we wanted to talk about doing something like that again, especially where there's been, I think, cuts in grants and stuff, and our budget didn't pass last year, and I'm not sure what that would look like, but I would curious what other people think.
Are you referring to like creating some sort of special education trust fund or something?
So I know
like
we're going to talk about that, but as far as creating the budget, where the money, so the public better understands where the money is going, where it's coming from, how we're paying for education in our state.
We talked about that last year, but I think by the time it actually happened, it was too close to the vote.
Right.
And I know I had some conversations with folks after the vote that they voted against the budget, but once I explained, our reasoning for things, they're like, wish it could go back. So getting as much information out early would be great.
Yeah. And I fully agree. The earlier we can start educating the community and getting the information out there, the better. And Rich, last year, kind of your critique, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I understood as your critique being is you wanted more kind of upfront information of what salaries and benefits would be, for instance. Basically, if we can ballpark estimate projections of what these values are going to be, because they do make up the total of whatever the budget is going to be, and in years prior, we haven't been able to get any sense of what that final number would be. So again, even just rough estimations, I think, would be helpful.
Yeah, and Mr. Dowd and I have talked about this, and I won't speak for him, but providing the board with some of the budget assumptions when we do the department budgets, it's right around that time. Pinkerton is engaged in their budget process right now, so we often get their final number at like the 11th hour, but we also have, you know, an average estimated increase that we rely on. Same with health insurance. Health insurance comes in like mid-October. So what we want to do is try to front load as many of those major expenses with you. You know, I can tell you, you know, we're very well aware of the fact that we're operating off of a default budget, and that is a message that has been sent to us. So when it comes to staffing, you know, we're going to try to maintain our present levels of staffing. And, you know, there's that one position that is grant funded that we want to look to move over. And then just a spoiler alert, you know, we're anticipating that Title II and Title IV will go away. So we'd like to build those expenses into the budget, which we should be doing anyways. Because remember, title funds are really, Title II and Title IV and IDEA are about unanticipated costs. So we should every year be rolling those figures over, but you'll see an increase for, you know, Title II, which is our mentoring money, our professional learning money for staff, and then Title IV, which is around student programming. And that's like around $40,000-ish. Oh.
How does Title I work in? I saw that a federal education budget has been proposed. It obviously hasn't been passed. It has to go to the Senate. However, the proposal is a 27% reduction in Title I funding. Is that going to affect our budget?
We don't know right now. We do have some guarantees or assurances. I want to use the word guarantee. Some assurances that Title I and IDEA are operate a little differently than the approval for Title II and Title IV because they were passed as acts of Congress, and they are Title I and Title IV are codified in the law, whereas Title II, III, which we don't receive Title III, and Title IV were really born from the Department of Education. So, and it is to your point that Title I money, which we use to support students who need additional support in math and reading, that number has continued to go down year after year after year. That allocation has been shrinking for quite a while now. Mr. Dowd, do you want to, anything that I missed? No.
So I think back to what I was saying about like salaries and stuff. So when you look at a school budget, right, salaries are typically 80% or higher of the budget. And I think that is helpful for the board to see, because when principals are asking us for supplies, obviously we want to give them the supplies, but we need to make sure that we can pay for the staff first.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we know, okay, hey, we're spending $500,000 on middle school English teachers. And knowing what the enrollment is next to the staffing, and then we can talk about all of the supplies and whatnot from there.
Yeah, absolutely, I would agree.
I think too, once we get the budget in place, like doing, you know, if you do like short 5-minute videos about different pieces of the budget, and then say the couple weeks before the election, you can do like shorts and then be like, and if you want to learn more, have the link to, and then you can kind of roll that out and try to get it as much on the social media for people to look at it as possible to understand both what's there and also what we might lose if it goes to default again.
Yeah, and I certainly, you know, there was lessons learned from last year, and I think that would benefit the board and the administration to have a more deliberate conversation around how do we get the information out about the budget. And again, there's a really fine line between getting information out about the budget and then electioneering, which is, you know, trying to get people to vote for the budget. Those are two different things. It's a fine line. So we want to be strategic about that and just make sure that we are getting all of the information out to anyone that will listen in whatever format that we think is effective. I think we can do a better job than we did in previous years, and that's not to say I think we do a pretty good job already, but clearly if we went to default, we have a message story that we need to do a better job of telling.
I think we can always improve, but I think the biggest factor was the reassessment.
Yeah.
Like, I think we could have done things differently, done the best they possible, and we may not have gotten that budget anyways. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
All right. Board members, any other questions or discussion around the budget? Okay. Moving on to Special Education Trust Fund discussion with Mr. Dowd.
Oh, thank you. So the board had asked for an exploration of what it would look like to have a special education trust, and so I have a few things that we can discuss on that. First, the purpose and the use, what the legal authority is to establish it, the process of establishing that fund, the fund financial management, who's responsible for it, and the disbursement of funds. So the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund serves as a way for our school district to set aside money specifically to address those unpredictable and high costs associated with special education. We can plan for future expenses, cover unanticipated costs, and we can fund capital expenditures theoretically through this plan should the need ever arise. So the legal authority, really it's under two statutes, RSA 35(1)(b), which allows that any school district may establish a reserve fund to meet the expenses of educating children with disabilities, and under RSA 198(20)(c), which is a very similar enabling statute. So the process of establishing such a fund is that the voters must approve the establishment and funding of that special ed trust fund through a warrant article at our annual meeting. Management of the trust funds, it's managed by the town's trustees of the trust funds. The trustees handle our capital reserve funds as well for construction. They're responsible for separating the fund's principal and income, and interest is booked as income, so we know actually what we have as earnings on that money and what we actually have as a principal. And by state law, those funds must be invested conservatively due to the shorter term horizons for their designated purpose, and obviously there's an element of risk with taxpayer funds. We want to minimize that at all possible. It gets a little tricky when we get into how to disperse from the fund, and the disbursements are authorized through that initial warrant article. So there are two options. Voters can vote or require voter approval for future disbursements, but if we have an offline expense in the middle of the year, toward the end of the year, we would have to call a special meeting or get approval at the next annual meeting. So we'd have to wait potentially either a whole budget cycle or incur significant expense to try and get a special meeting set up if that need arose. Or they can designate the school board as agents to expend. This is more like an expendable trust fund than it is capital reserve fund, and so this allows much more timely disbursements since there's no need to wait until the school district's annual meeting and no need to call a special meeting. So just factors for consideration if one were to be proposed, or if you'd like to propose one for the warrant or have one proposed to be ready for the warrant, these are things to consider. And that's that. Are there any questions?
Can you explain a little more? It says the fund is managed by the town's trustees of the trust funds.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what does that mean? Is it that the town then controls those funds instead of the school basically holding the fund and then the board?
Yeah, so the way that it works is, in looking at our capital reserve fund right now, if the board, we have some issue potentially with budget doing a withdrawal, but let's not worry about that issue right now. The way that it would typically work, and I know that we typically put these things on the ballot when we're doing a capital reserve distribution. And we put them on because typically there are budgetary implications and we need that budget to pass so that we can do that. The way that would work otherwise is if it's authorized, however it's authorized, trustees of the trust fund holding those funds, you send the board, someone sends over authorization for them to make a disbursement along with the authority to do so. So we just received funding, almost all of our funding for the Cove Classroom project. It was $1.5 million, well, in that neighborhood that we received from the trustees of the trust fund. We simply put together a letter, say, hey, this was authorized by vote. Here's that, and here are all the expenses justifying that distribution. So if the school board were the agents to expend, we would go to you. You would take action at a board meeting, public hearing, whatever it would be. We then would send that authorization to the trustees of the trust fund along with your legal authority to do so, and the disbursement would be made. So they hold the money, you would authorize the disbursement.
Kind of for the viewers at home, the Special Education Trust Fund would be a way to kind of backstop in case we have a sudden unexpected special education need. So say if you had a student that needed a placement, you had a student that was like medically fragile, or a student that needed a placement in a school that could take care of their needs. They could be $100,000, $200,000. which could be an unexpected expense all of a sudden during the year, and this would be a way to have a fund for that. Is that about right?
Correct, yeah. So we'd be talking about, and we have expenses that we anticipate, expenses that might happen and occur that we'll budget for anyway. So the situation that you're describing would be a situation of a new move-in to the town. And we've used all of our contingency, and we've gone through really our budget for placements or for special education services, whatever that criteria would be by the board. Once we go through that budget, if we don't have an option to make a transfer, at that point, that might be something to do and request a distribution from the trustees to handle.
And also when there's a student that goes to Pinkerton that has needs beyond the average student, we also have to pay for that as well.
That's right.
And then this is the kind of thing that other school districts have run into issues where they've seen these unexpected expenses and they've run almost over budget, or if not over budget.
There are some that have that this has caused them to go over budget. We've had years where we might have circumstances that line might be a general primary cause of our surplus, and there are other years that we do get more demand than we have capability to satisfy with the resources that we're given.
All right, thank you.
I do know towns and districts though that have established these funds, built them up over 4 or 5 years, and then depleted them in 1 year.
That was going to be kind of my question. Have we done any research of schools just in the state of New Hampshire, not even necessarily in our area, and how common it is or not to have a fund like this?
I would say, I haven't researched it, but I would say probably about half have some sort of special education fund, reserve fund, not including the cities, Portsmouths and the Manchesters and that, but quite a few do.
And my previous district, where I was the assistant superintendent for student services, we had one. And I can recall maybe 2 or 3 occasions where we withdrew from the fund, and one of them was to pay for special education services during COVID. There is a sensitivity to expending funds from the trust. You know, Carl pointed out, yeah, we'll have a move-in who has a child that is disabled, and there's a lot of costs associated with that. There's also a lot of privacy issues associated with that. So to have some substantive conversation about the specific need, it's not possible under FERPA. So you just be aware that, you know, the request is being made more along the lines of like the financial need than it is about what the actual student need is. It's a very delicate dance. Sure. And then the other thing I'd say too is we talk about zero-based budgeting. You know, to be perfectly transparent, we do less zero-based budgeting in special ed, because if we only budgeted for everything that we absolutely knew that we needed, given the unanticipated expenses and increased costs that occur after the budget is approved, we would be...
Get you on the news.
Yeah, we'd be on the news. So this actually will allow us the opportunity, with that buffer set aside, to do more accurate budgeting in student services, because we don't have to just anticipate what our what future costs will be, if that makes sense.
Now, would this be something where towards the end of the school year we could then say we need this lump sum for services that were provided over the course of the year, because it would put us underwater, and that way it's more of a broad-based as opposed to stay away from the FERPA and specific issues?
Yeah, and you know, we usually run into a situation where the voters approve the budget, and then Melissa and I are having a conversation about a new kid that moved in 3 weeks later. Like, we always start the new fiscal year with unanticipated need. I can't recall the time that it ever not happened. And so this allows us a little bit of, you know, ability to, you know, have money set aside, you know, for those unanticipated costs should we need them.
Would this go on as a warrant article?
That's up to the board.
Right, yes.
Yeah, I feel like it should be in a warrant article, just like the capital trust. And then it's about going out to the community, talking about like this is something to prevent, you know, the district from putting itself into financial difficulty, and that a lot of districts have it.
I have a question about the income. The interest becomes income, and it says that the trustees, you know, are responsible for keeping that separate. are we allowed to use the interest as part of the fund? Okay. And how
Unless
much?
there were a restriction in the warrant article, if the, with a scholarship, you'd endow it and just be an endowment, you'd pay on the interest only. But in this case, they are required to separate it. It's good information to know, but for our purposes, I don't think that there would be an implication on specific
Okay.
limits on our withdrawal.
How much would you, do I get to ask you, how much would you recommend starting a fund at?
Oh, I think,
Is that us that has to decide that?
yeah.
We can recommend.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it would be nice to have a fund in the range of maybe $500,000, $400,000 at least, but not starting at that. I would expect maybe $50,000 or $100,000 and kind of build it up as a little bit of a rainy day fund.
I was going to say, I think it's something that you start low.
No, I would
build up
agree.
over time. Yeah. Because
Yes.
I think too, like you have to look at it also in comparison to the capital reserve fund, and then also that some things didn't pass. So if you go small, I think it's a better chance to pass it now and then see where we're at.
And so would there be two separate warrant articles, one to establish the fund and then one to
Fund the fund?
fund the
Good
fund?
question.
Yeah, well put, Melissa.
Yeah, contingent fund to fund, yes.
All right.
And then you could do the same thing out of surplus after 150,000 or however you wanted to set that up.
Oh,
I'll just say personally, from my point of view, with the state of where federal funding is at, with the state of where state funding is at, and what I know of special education costs and what it's been over the past 2 to 3 years, I certainly don't think it's a bad idea to put this on as a warrant article and put in the effort of trying to educate the public on the point of it.
yeah. Well, especially after the state downshifted, but a few $100,000 onto us this past year.
I would agree. I think, and then ultimately, it's up to the town to approve it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have to pay special education costs regardless, and I think it's very important that we're very transparent with, as Bob said, like, the kid moves in, we have to pay for it. It doesn't matter if we have the money or not. So ensuring that we have some money in our back pocket to play with is important.
Denise, any thoughts?
No, I'm just following along and listening in this,
Okay.
not currently.
All right. So at this point, I mean, we don't think we're ready to.
Well, yeah, I think it's more.
Yeah, okay. All right. So at this point, we'll leave it as just sharing our thoughts. So thank you all for that. Moving on to food service administrative review.
Yes. Thank you. That would be me again. So the New Hampshire DOE, through our funding through the USDA, is required to conduct periodic administrative reviews of their programs. The date of this review is March 4th and 5th, 2025. We were trying to figure out, I think their goal is once every 5 years. We were trying to figure out how many years it had been. And I vaguely remember a food service review back in 2017, but that was at the combined SAU, and I didn't really look at Hampstead. So it's been an awful long time since they've looked at our program. Overall, really, there's nothing terribly out of line. You can see that we're pretty much in compliance. Review findings, yes, we had some findings. And some of those, I think, go on Part B, which is like on page 3. So I've got some interesting thing to discuss here. If you see that we had a finding under meal pattern compliance, and it was for lunch. We run a middle school that's 5 through 8, and our issue of area of noncompliance came in because 5 falls under elementary. So 6, 7, and 8 are middle, and they have a different menu, different sodium, different caloric requirements, sugar, etc. So one of the things I think we've done is try to isolate that lunch a little bit more on its own. Like, for example, with the pizza, middle school you would divide in 6 slices, elementary would be 8, that sort of thing. So we've tried to separate. You can't really switch it up that easily midstream, so we've just tried to separate the lunches a little bit so that they can do a little bit more on the compliance. And we had a production record compliance issue, which was here at the middle school relating to our salad bar. We didn't have all of the backup, all the ingredients available for that. It's a program that we do like to offer. Offer versus serve, we had a finding there. Meal selection, it was under breakfast. And this is a great debate. Apparently, certain donuts fall under 2 different categories of components to make a meal for breakfast. So now we know. So,
Okay.
Those are the things they came up with. There were no financial findings. The program overall seemed to be running well, and yeah, the auditors seemed very pleased when they were here. And yeah. Oh, and then the last one on the last page, it says other areas. Yes, findings. Summer food service program outreach. The USDA has requested that we include a mapper on our website so that families can find out where summer food offerings are. We don't offer summer food through our school. So what do? Well, we have the food pantry, we have local food, like it's across the street from the school. But because we didn't have the mapper for people to be able to find it, and we just had the specific places to go, that was a finding. And they have requested that the newspapers provide a free public release showing the certain criteria for qualification for free or reduced meals. All we have to do is call the newspaper up, ask them if they'll make the publication for us for free. They say no, and we're done. But we didn't do that. It's on our website, and we don't really do newspapers. So I think the state's looking to actually solve that at a state level, actually have that posted like statewide. So a little more of a comprehensive approach than having individual districts do it. So overall, it was good. Just want to let you and the board know that we're in good shape, I think. So
my question is, where there were findings, are there actionable items that we take away from this?
Oh yeah, and where we've been able to take that action, we have. I don't think that we've been unable to take action on any of them.
Okay.
Some of the stuff hasn't come up yet, like we won't be posting, summer programming until the spring again, probably March or April into that. So it's like a year away.
Okay.
But yeah, these are easily correctable items.
All right.
And if you would like some entertainment, the Office of Nutrition through the New Hampshire DOE has a place on their site where all of these are listed. And if you want some entertainment, you can go and see how other districts fared with financial findings and all kinds of findings.
Version of entertainment and most people's version of entertainment is a little bit different, Jeff.
No, right?
Board members, any other questions on food service?
We're still lower, I think, than we need to be. But
Okay. Moving on to the school board meeting schedule. So on November 11th, that is a national holiday. So you'll notice on the proposed updated schedule, we proposed moving that meeting on November 11th to Wednesday, November 12th. So if you'll look that over, I'll be looking for a motion to adopt this revised yearly calendar.
I'll make a motion to adopt the calendar to move the meeting on the 11th to the 12th.
I will be unable to attend, but I will second that motion.
Board members, any discussion or questions? All approved?
You got a roll call.
Oh, Melissa, will you please take roll?
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Denton? Dr. Hubner?
Yes.
Mr. Cabarrus?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer? Her screen is blank. Mrs. Meyer?
yeah, we're having some technical issues on behalf.
You can pause roll call vote.
Sure.
Okay.
We can abstain her. or come back to it. By the way, Ms. Henry, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting if you don't want to. But we appreciate it.
Technical difficulties. I just need to get the
Okay,
take a moment.
sure. Yeah, we will table the vote till hopefully later in this agenda here. All right, moving on to the school board goals discussion. So those of you that were on the board last year will remember we went through a good amount of effort and time to brainstorm what we wanted our 2024-2025 goals to be. And personally, I feel like these are very robust, thorough goals that, again, we put a lot of thought into around the wording and the things that we wanted to include in these. And for this year, personally, I would propose kind of keeping the goals the way they are, again, because we did put in so much effort last year. And again, this is just my feelings personally. I want to give Bob and the district a chance to, I guess, continue moving forward with the progress of these goals that have been established rather than trying to create brand new ones. That's just where I stand.
I'm going to go back to what I brought up last year, and I think some of that might be if Bob or district can kind of look into, like, how do we teach students to assess the validity of information, which is sort of digital literacy, but it's not in there. And like, I'd like to know how much is taught in social studies class or English or research or whatever, because for me, literacy is great, students can read is great, but I think the big battle going forward in the future is how do you figure out whether the information you're reading is valid or not. And I think that's a really important skill that we're going to need going forward. And I don't want to turn out students that go off and can't assess with what they know, because the internet. The one good thing is with all the deep fakes and stuff that kids are starting to more and more doubt what's on the internet, which I think is a good thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, that standard of critical thinking you find like spattered throughout many of the standards. And I would say, some school boards have goals, some don't. Sometimes they're symbolic, sometimes they're really actionable. We, at least as long as I've been here, like, use this as a guide for what we do, whether it's through the strategic plan, and this year it is district goals. And so we use this as sort of a driving force of that work. And so we've started that. In fact, at the next board meeting, our leadership team will report out on goals and then our action items for those goals. And to get to a little bit to your point, Dr. Hubner, one of the conversations that we had at our leadership team meeting today is like, what are we doing with AI? And really, there's a framework that was published by the New Hampshire School Administrators Association last spring. And so what we'd like to do as part of our goal work for this year is to like unpack that framework and create a framework for Hampstead. And when we talk about AI, we're talking about like operational aspects. How do we run our business? And then we talk about our teaching and learning, like how are teachers using it for lesson design and to assist them in the classroom. And then how are we teaching students to use it age appropriately, developmentally, and in a critical way. So I think part of what you're talking about gets addressed with a framework for AI. And then the other area is, with the Parental Bill of Rights, there is increased scrutiny on school curriculum and the transparency with that and the availability of that. So we need to update a lot of our curriculum guides so that they accurately reflect what it is that we teach. And, Nicole and I have gone through those guides, and there is a big component across all curriculum areas around critical thinking, evaluating sources, looking for information. So that certainly can be a piece of the district goals, but we can also weave them into the goals that we have, the board has created.
I just think I would like, the reality is there's 100, 150 different goals that get put onto the plate of the teachers. And like for me, I would like to know how the teachers feel, how much of that is being covered, whether it's a little piece of it being covered or whether they feel it's being covered well. Weird fact was ChatGPT the usage on ChatGPT went down 40% in June, and then all of a sudden started kicking right back up in September. And the correlation that most people found was that it was because school was out and kids stopped using it. And I think changing fundamentally how we look, kids and parents and people in the workforce are going to use AI. So how do we look to get ahead of the curve and help the students to know what they need 20 years from now, right? And it is a guess, but I think that's a really important thing that we try to prepare them so that when they go off to college or they're 25 years old and they look back, they go, man, I'm so much ahead of where all these other kids were because I went through a Hampstead school. I think that's the goal that I want to look for, but yeah, so.
I would agree. And there's 3 goals. The first one is around curriculum and instruction and assessment. And, I know it's become a little bit of a buzzword, but, there's language in there. We talk about future ready, right? Like, we don't know, what skills students are going to need in their future endeavors, but, we need to at least make sure that they have those sort of soft skills to be able to meet the demand of whatever the future holds for them, so.
And Carl, I don't discount the value of what you're saying. I want all of our students, like you said, to be critical thinkers and have the independence and the skill set to be able to question what's true, what's not, what's valid, what's not. Back to the goals, I would argue that can kind of be a directive that Bob has taken notes on that he's going to bring back to his team, and I don't know that it necessarily needs to be mapped out or expressed in the goals in order for that to happen.
I don't know if it is or it's not because I don't know enough about what's going on in Hampton schools right now. I guess that's my point, is that, like, if we can try to get information from the teachers in some way to try to find out how much that is being covered.
Yeah.
And like also when you talk to soft skills I'm going to pick on you. Do you feel that kids are more reliant on cell phones and less comfortable having face-to-face conversations?
Like with AI and being able to be on your phones versus not being allowed to go on your phone during school?
Yeah.
I think last year compared to this year, people were less social. Like, you could tell, like, if they're walking to class, they'd be on their phones. During lunch, if they didn't have friends, they would just sit on their phones and not make the effort. And you can see this year, there's a clear difference in that.
Their eyes are up.
Good. Their eyes are up. They're talking more. They have to try to talk to people, or else you're just going to be sitting there, be bored. So I think it's pretty beneficial to not have our phones.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. I'm good.
All right. Okay, did we get the Zoom working?
I think Teddy's working on it.
Okay, we're still working on it. Okay, so we will hold off on the vote for the schedule. Moving on to board comments and correspondence. Board members, anything to share?
Very thankful that we have excellent administration and CFO that doesn't put our district in $5 million for the debt accidentally. If you haven't been reading the news about Claremont, who just took out a $4 million loan to cover their operating expenses for the year. So thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
End of that. All right. Good. Okay, moving on to the personnel report.
Yeah, so we do not have personnel report this evening. But moving on to the superintendent report, just real quick, you know, both Pete and Amy did an excellent job talking about the opening of school. It really was just a very big success, a lot of planning on the part of a lot of people, and feedback that we've received from our leadership team and from teachers has been very positive as well. You know, there are always a few elementary school parents that end up crying on the first day. We tell that's perfectly normal. Middle school parents, not so much. They don't really cry. They're usually smiling, actually. But it really was a great start to the school year. Also just wanted to mention, too, that I did send out a communication to families today reminding them of the new bell-to-bell cell phone law. And we will actually have a policy committee meeting next week where the board will take up the issue of the new law and will develop a policy. The way that the new law was written, it says that the school district or the school board is compelled to get feedback from staff and from parents and families. So I did send out a quick Google survey for folks to fill out, where we're just looking for input on specifically around consequences and sanctions and what that might look like. Also, we are getting ready to roll out our strategic plan process. Again, a big piece of what this year is a year of reflection. And you may recall, going back 4 years now, that we engaged in a year-long process where we brought stakeholders to the table for a steering committee. And we also did stakeholder feedback groups, sent out surveys, and we reviewed our values, our priorities, and then developed goals. So we will be bringing forward in early October what the process will look like. We'll engage in that process in October and wrap up sometime around March or April, where we'll bring a strategic plan proposal to the board for their approval. So that just is something for us to keep our eye open for. There's always challenges at the beginning of the year, and one continuous challenge is transportation. So we have been running with a shortage of drivers. We are currently short 2 drivers. This is should be a temporary issue, but we may remain 1 driver down temporarily unless anything has changed in terms of.
No, it's okay. That works, generally speaking, for one down.
And so it's not without frustration from the school and from parents. We're doing the best we can. I have had the opportunity to communicate with area superintendents to see, hey, how is your transportation staffing issues going? And it appears to be pretty bad all over the place. Again, drivers in general, nationwide, there seems to be a shortage of school bus drivers. And that really is the superintendent report, unless there's other items that the board might have.
Making the bus route? It's the.
No.
Please share.
Drive a bike and have meeting spots, and the kids wait at set times, and you all bike to school together.
Oh my God, I would do that in a heartbeat.
See, I knew you would. Anyways, maybe it's on TikTok. I saw it on Instagram Reels. So.
Yeah.
And then I would just add, like, hot off the presses, because, Carl, I appreciate the comment about Mr. Dowd's wizardry with our finances. We did receive a short time ago, there's a risk report card that we receive from the New Hampshire Education Department in conjunction with our federal partners on how we're doing in managing risk when it comes to our federal funds. You can be in the red, which is not good at all, the yellow, which is you need some improvement, or the green. And we continue to be in the green, and I can tell you that we are in a small company in the green. There are a lot of school districts that are in both the yellow and red. I will share the data with the board, And we can also put it on the website too, so you can see where Hampstead stands in terms of management of our federal funds, and then also where other school districts might stand as well.
How does one achieve the red? Meaning, like,
I don't
how do
know.
you-
I
how do
don't-
you- like
Yeah.
misuse of federal funds?
I don't know. You have a good explanation of?
There are a bunch of little things like, did the LA request a transfer of funding between grants? Are there non-public schools eligible for equitable services? Different things like that. I feel as though they have, when did they last participate in monitoring? As I said, we're supposed to be monitored like every 5 years. We might even have never. So all of these little factors lead up to, to points. Do the LEA experience turnover, key administrative position, superintendent, BA, or grants manager during the 24-25 year? So that's one of the factors that they're looking at. So it's interesting that it doesn't seem to be very static. The amount of the money you might be receiving might have something to do with it as well, but other factors don't seem to play in here, but a lot of times we have grant money that we don't use till the following year.
Sure.
And so sometimes they don't like that. I don't know that that's a risk factor necessarily, because they always tell you to spend your grant money, your oldest grant money first.
Yeah.
So, but those are the factors. Interesting matrix that they came up with. I mean, I don't know that places like Claremont would be anywhere but the red on this, so.
Okay. Last order of business, we still do need to take roll call on our vote to amend the school board schedule for the year. So should we retake the motion or just, okay.
I believe she's back. So
Perfect.
is the board just going to resume where we left off?
Yes. please.
Okay. Mrs. Meyer, can you hear me now? This is Melissa. I can see her on the screen. Mrs. Meyer? Mrs. Meyer? I don't think she's getting audio.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
There we go.
I'm here and talking.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so Mrs. Meyer, there was a motion on the table made by the board to amend the school board meeting dates for this coming year, to change the November 11th school board meeting to the following day on November 12th instead. That's the only change. So again, that motion's on the table. We were doing roll call. We have 3 board members in favor of that, and so we left off with you. Would you like to vote in favor of that?
Yes, please.
Thank you. And last is Dr. Poor.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. It's all set.
All right. At this point, we will be going into a non-public, and we will not be coming out of non-public. So I will make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A3 2D, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, which if discussed in public would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. Can I get a second? Second.
Dr. Poor has the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Melissa, will you take roll?
Yes, I will. Ms. Denton? Yes. Dr. Hubner?
Yes.
Mr. Koufaris?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
And Dr. Poor? Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. The time is 8:14.
Thank you all.